This big Parshat Pinchas, we're going to deal with the daughters of Tzlofchad. Tzlofchad, the way the Jewish people inherited the land of Israel was by the people who actually left Egypt. It wasn't by the people who entered the land of Israel. The entire generation that left Egypt, I'm not discussing that. The entire generation that left Egypt actually passed away in the desert. But their sons inherited on their merit. So in other words, they counted the fathers as the leader of the tribe. So the sons inherited the fathers. We're not going to get into that, it's a whole discussion. But there was a problem. One of the problems was, we're going to read it right over here now, it's source number 1. ותקרבנה בנות צלופחד בן חפר, בן גלעד, בן מחיר. And they came close, the daughters of Tzlofchad, the son of Hefer, the son of Gilad, the son of Machir, Ben Menashe, the son of Menashe, למשפחות Menashe, to the families of Menashe, Ben Yosef, who was the son of Yosef, ואלה שמות בנותיו, and these are the name of his daughters. מחלה, נועה, חוגלה, מילכה ותרצה, 5 daughters. ותעמודנה לפני משה, they stood in front of Moshe, ולפני אלעזר הכהן, they came, they made a committee, Moshe was there, Elazar the Kohen was there, ולפני הנשיאים, all the leaders of the tribe, וכל העדה, and the entire congregation was standing over there, פתח אוהל מועד, in the meeting tent, לאמור, and this is what the complaint was. This is what they said. אבינו מת במדבר. They told them, our father passed away in the desert. והוא לא היה בתוך העדה הנועדים על השם בעדת קורח. He wasn't amongst the 250 people who stood with Korach that went against Moshe. כי בחטאו מת. He met because of his own sin. But the problem is, what's the problem? ובנים לא היו לו. But he had no sons. And then this was the complaint. למה ייגרע שם אבינו מתוך משפחתו? Why should the name of our father is not going to be mentioned inside his family? כי אין לו בן, because he doesn't have a son. תנה לנו אחוזה בתוך אחי אבינו. It says, please, give us an inheritance amongst the brothers of our father. We also want a part of the land. Yeah? That's what the daughters of Tzlofchad said. We're on page number 3. It's source number 2. What happens then? ויקרב משה את משפטן לפני השם. Moshe takes their case before God.
Moshe doesn't know the answer.
Yeah. ויאמר השם.
He knew the answer, but he was not empowered.
Let's go. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it soon. We'll discuss this soon. ויאמר השם אל משה לאמור. So he brought this matter in front of God, Moshe, and God said to Moshe as follows. So God says, "Ken bnot Tzlofchad dovrot." God says to Moshe, they have a point. The daughter of Tzlofchad have a point. נתון תיתן להם אחוזת נחלה בתוך אחי אביהם. They should have a part of the inheritance of the land amongst the brothers of their father. והעברת את נחלת אביהן להן, and because they had no son, nevertheless, give the inheritance of their fathers to them. ואל בני ישראל תדבר לאמור. And then to the Jewish people, you should speak saying, איש כי ימות, a man, if he passes away, if he dies, ובן אין לו, and he doesn't have a son, והעברתם את נחלתו לביתו. You're going to pass his inheritance to his daughter. Now, why is that problematic? We're going to discuss this also later on, but it's problematic because the land was given to the tribes. And if you pass it on to the daughter, and then the daughter gets married out of her tribe, the land is going to go to a different tribe. So that's the problem, but that's what it is. ואם אין לו אחים, so what if he doesn't have brothers? ונתתם את נחתו לאחי אביו, so you should go to the uncles, Go to the family, whatever family it is, the closest family. ואם אין אחים לאביו, and if there's no brothers to his father, ונתנתם נחלתו לשאורו הקרוב אליו ומשפחתו. Give it to the closest relationship that you have. וירש אותה, and he's going to inherit it. והייתה לבני ישראל, and this is going to be the ruling for the entire Jewish people, לחוקת משפט כאשר ציווה השם את משה. This is going to be the ruling that decreed laws for the Israelite as God said to the Jewish people. Okay. Let's start with Nachmanides. This is on page 4, source number 3. Nachmanides says like this. ודעתי בדרך הפשט. This is the problem of Nachmanides. He doesn't understand this story so much. He says, what's the problem? שאמרו ככה, it says, they spoke this way. So Nachmanides' question is, it says he doesn't understand the whole mentioning of Korach. Very good. He says, it's not, who cares how he died? The fact is, what do you do with a man that doesn't have any sons to inherit him? That's the question. Why did they have to bring Korach into this picture? Why did they have to mention it? Yeah. Why does the Torah record it even? Good guy. Yeah. And if he wasn't a good guy, and if he was a bad guy, then the law's going to change? Right. Yeah. Okay. So this is what Nachmanides is going to answer. ודעתי בדרך הפשט. This is my opinion in the simple explanation. שאמרו ככה בעבור, they said it in such a manner, שחשבו, because this is what they thought about Moshe Rabbeinu. They thought שמשה רבנו היה שונא עדת קורח יותר מכל החוטאים שמתו במדבר. They assumed that Moshe hates the people of Korach more than all the other sinners that died in the desert. It says he has specific animosity towards Korach and his guys, 250 guys. Why? שהם היו הקמים כנגדו, because all the other ones, all the other revolutions weren't against Moshe. They were against God. Yeah, they weren't specifically against Moshe. Korach stood against Moshe specifically. That was the problem. The other ones you can give, Moshe understand, they're fighting against God, not against me. But over here, it's against Moshe himself. והכופרים בכל מעשיו. So this is what the daughters of Tzlofchad thought. וחשבו, this is according to Nachmanides. חשבו, they thought, אולי בשנאתו אותם יאמר, since he hates them, he will say, אל יהי לו משה חסד, ואל יכונן ליתומיו. It says, since he was such a bad person, it says you shouldn't have mercy, and you shouldn't have any inheritance, and you shouldn't even have mercy on his offsprings. Why? Such a bad guy, his offspring should suffer. יזכור עוון אבותם אל השם. It says, you know what? Everybody should make from them an example. That's what Moshe would have thought according to their thinking. We're going to make them into example. Anybody who goes against Moshe, see what happens with him. He doesn't get inheritance of the land. על כן הודיעו כי לא היה מהם. So this is why they came to Moshe and they told Moshe immediately, Moshe, you should know, it's true that they died in the desert, but they didn't die because they went against you. Yeah, he died for another reason, whatever reason it is.
But the Korach family got the inheritance, right?
The sons did.
Sons,
Yeah,
whoever was left.
but it was, nobody was left. 250 died, and he had,
Uncles,
everybody died. So it says, 2 of his sons, there was a miracle for them, and they came out later on, but we'll discuss it some other time. Another class on its own. But besides the 2 of the sons, nobody was there. Anybody that was close to Korach and his family passed away.
And their stuff.
And the stuff. That's right.
All the rechush.
So, but again, another class for another time. The Rebbe,
What's the question, Rabbi? You have a question yet or not?
he didn't understand why it's recorded in the Torah.
Oh, that's nice.
He says, well, I don't understand. What's it?
Why do you need this story?
Why do I need the story? The story of the rules I need, but the details that this is what they sold to Moshe, It's not relevant over here. So he's explaining why it's relevant. It's relevant because they thought that Moshe is going to be, if he thinks that he was part of the Korach rebellion, they might not get inheritance because of that. That's what Nachmanides says. That's what the relevant according to him. Okay. The Rebbe says, מסופר בתורה, it is told in the Torah, שכאשר בנות צלופחד באו לפני משה, that when the daughters of Tzlofchad came in front of Moshe, אם שאלה ובקשה, they had a question and a request, בנוגע לנחלת אביהן. This came with the inheritance of their father. What was the question and request? תנה לנו אחוזה בתוך אחי אבינו. It says we want to inherit together with our uncles. We want to be part of the land. So it says, לא המתין משה רבנו. It says the usual way is Moshe has to contemplate. He has the Sanhedrin, he has the people over there. Sit down, discuss it. That was the usual way. So it says, לא המתין משה רבנו לחשוב ולהתבונן. Moses didn't tell him, let me think about it. You know, I'll think about it. Let me think. כדי להשיב אל השאלתן, in order to answer the question. He didn't take time. Immediately, what did he do? אלא הפנה מיד את השאלה לקדוש ברוך הוא. He immediately turned, I'm not thinking right now, let's ask God. ויקרב משה את משפטן לפני השם. It says he immediately came and he brought the question before God. ובטעם הדבר. So the Rebbe asked a question. Why is this? לכאורה, it says, what is going on? הייתכן שמשה רבנו לא היה יכול להשיב בעצמו על שאלתם? Does it even come to your mind that Moshe couldn't have found this solution by himself? מבארים מפרשי המקרא. So the people, the commentaries explain what's going on over here. So it says, כיוון שגילו בנות צלופחד בטענתן. It says, when the daughters of Tzlofchad asked the question, what did they say? They say this statement. What statement? שלא היה אביהן מעדת שונאיו של משה. They mentioned that their father never went against Moshe. They had to put it in. Like it says, והוא לא היה בתוך העדה. It says, and he wasn't amongst the people who went with קורח. הנועדים על השם עדת קורח. So it says, היה בזה קירוב הדעת למשה. It says, it was as if minute. It was a minute bribery to Moshe. It was a minute bribery to Moshe. Minute. It was tiny. A drop of bribery to Moshe. ואילו היה דן את דינם, and now, if he would have took their case, היה כאילו נוטל שוחד דברים. It was just like he was accept bribery. ועל כן חסך עצמו מן הדין. And therefore, he said, I don't want to come into this situation. ולא רצה לדון אותם. And he didn't want to discuss it. And you would say, what kind of bribery? This is a bribery? It's not a bribery. Where's the bribery? He wasn't. They didn't think that he was going to, he might not know. So they told him, you should know that he wasn't one of the guys. Where's the bribery over here? So let's look at Jewish law when it comes to bribery. This is for Maimonides, and we're going to see how careful a judge has to be when it comes to briberies, from the rules in Maimonides. So Maimonides says like this, in source number 2, page number 5. ולא שוחד ממון בלבד. When we're talking about bribery, we're not only talking about cash. אלא אפילו שוחד דברים, even bribery with words. What does bribery with words means? So he gives a couple examples. מעשה בדיין אחד, it was a case of a judge, שהיה עולה בדוגית קטנה לעבור בנהר. He used to take a small boat to pass the river, from one side of the river to the other side of the river. הוא פשט את ידו וסיוע בעלייתו. And the person gave a hand to the judge to go up into the, this was his job. You know, the owner of the dugit, the owner of the boat, gives a hand to the people to come inside. And then this person had a court case with this judge. והיה לו דין. And he had a court case afterwards with this particular judge. ואמר לו הדיין, and the judge told him, I know it was your job, but you gave me a hand. The fact that you gave me a hand means I'm thankful to you. You helped me once. Since you helped me once, it doesn't matter how. You help everybody, I know. That's not the point. But you helped me. In my mind, I'm biased towards you. You're a nice guy already, a little bit more than the other guy in my mind. הרי פסול לך לדין. So therefore, I cannot be the judge for you. Then he gives another example. ומעשה באחד, there's a case of another one, שהעביר עברה נוצה של עוף מעל רדיד הדיין. When they were going into the courtroom, there was a feather on his coat. So he went like this, to flick it off. ואחר כיסה רוק מלפני הדיין. And somebody else, he covered spit that was on the sand in front of the Dayan, was not going to walk on it. ואמר לו, and also in these cases, the judge told him, look, I know it's your job. You clean the street, that's what you're supposed to do. But because I saw you do it, now I'm biased towards you. הריני פסול לך לדין. I cannot be your judge. Go to some other judge. ומעשה באחד, and this is a very strange case. There was a person שהביא מתנה אחת ממתנות כהונה לדיין כהן. So the case was like this. The Kohen owned land. Now you can say how the Kohen owned land. The Kohen can own land because he buys it for 49 years. After that, the land goes back to the person. Yeah, but he owned the land, but he's a Kohen. He doesn't like working. So he gave it to somebody else, to an aris, to work it. So now the rule is that the aris brings the matnot kehuna to whom? To the Kohen. It's like it's written in the contract. All the presents that you're going to give to the Kohanim, I want those presents. I'm a Kohen, give it to me. It's part of the things in the contract. Yeah. ואמר לו, פסול אני לך לדין. It says, since you're bringing it to me, I am not good for you for a din. In the same case, ומעשה באריס אחד של דיין, it's almost the same case as before, and it's even more stringent. שהיה מביא לו תאנים מתוך שדהו מערב שבת לערב שבת. This guy was not necessarily a Kohen, but he would give, the deal was that every Friday he would give him the crops. He would go and would give him the crops from the land every Friday. פעם אחת הקדים והביא בחמישי בשבת מפני שהיה לו דין. So one time he came on a Thursday. Why did he come and bring the stuff on a Thursday? Because anyway he had to come to the judge on a Thursday to what? To bring him, because he had a court case. So he says, I'm already coming to town. So I'll come in town instead of Friday, again, I'll bring it now on a Thursday. ואמר לו דיין, הרי פסול לך לדין. I can't do it. Since you came in, why? Only because you brought it one day earlier. אף על פי שהתאנים משל הדיין, even though the figs belongs to him. It's not, he's not doing him a favor, it's his anyway. The fact that he brought it one day earlier, that's the problem. הואיל והביאן שלא בזמנם נפסל לו לדין. So the Rebbe says, let's look what's going on over here. והגע בעצמך. Says, think what's going on over here in our case. מחד גיסא, we have whom over here? We have the greatest rabbi we ever had. מי לנו גדול ממשה רבנו? Who is it to us greater than Moses? Moshe קיבל תורה מסיני. Moses, the one who received the Torah from God. ומסרה ליהושע, and the one who passed it on to Yehoshua. וכולו, עד סוף הדורות. He was the leader of all leaders. כך שכל גדול בדורו, and every great Torah scholar, in any generation, you know why he's great? Because of Moshe. That's it. Moshe is the beginning and the end of everybody. הרי כל תורתו, every sage in any generation, וכל התוקף שלו שצריכים לשמוע לדבריו, and the only reason you need to listen to the sages, מכיוון שאומר את דברי התורה, אינו אלא כתוצאה מזה, this is as a result, שמשה רבנו מסר את התורה ליהושע. It all started with Moshe, who passed it on to Yehoshua. Moshe is the greatest of the great. ויהושע לזקנים, and then Yoshua to the elders, and so on. במשך 40 הדורות, through the 40 generations למקבלי התורה, like the Rambam enumerates them. ועל דרך זה בדורות של אחרי זה עד לדורו, until all generation. ובפרט, and especially he tells you, you know which Moshe we're talking about? Which Moshe? Even Moshe went through transformation. שמאורע זה אירע בשנת ה-40. This is happening when? In the 40th year, right before they entering the land. Moshe is at the top of the top right here. שאז היה משה רבנו בתכלית השלמות. After 39 years that Moshe Rabbeinu refined himself as the leader, now he is the top of the top. He cannot even get higher. לאחר שקיבל כל התורה, he already received the entire Torah. שהרי כמה ינים בתורה נתגלו לאחרי מעמד הר סיני, because like we know, some aspects of the Torah were revealed after Mount Sinai. במשך 40 שנה. ונמצא, and we find, שבשנת 40 קיבל כבר כל התורה כולה. So this is Moshe Rabbeinu, after he received the entire Torah. Nothing is missing. תכלית השלימות למשה רבנו, the highest level that Moshe Rabbeinu ever was. ומכיוון שכן, and if this is so, היה משה רבנו צריך להשיב על שאלתן של בנות צלופחד. משה רבנו should have answered them immediately. בוודאי ידע משה רבנו את דינו של תלמיד חכם שראוי להורות ואינו מורה. And it's problematic, you know why? Because there's a rule that says that if somebody asks you a question and you know the answer, you're a Talmid Chacham, not you think you know. You know the answer. You learned the entire Torah. Not you learned 80% of the Torah and you assume that this is the answer. You learned the entire Torah and you know it inside out. And somebody asks you a question, you have to answer. You cannot not answer. Somebody asks you a question about the Torah, you have to answer. So when they asked Moshe the question, he has an obligation to answer. He is not allowed not to answer. He is not allowed not to answer. תלמיד חכם ראוי להורות ואינו מורה, this is not forbidden. ובמילא, and how much more so, כשבאים אליו עם שאלה, now they come to him for a question, page number 7. ולא רק איש אחד, it's not one person is coming to ask the question, אלא 5 אנשים. There were 5 girls, 5 women who came, who has this question, the daughters of צלופחד. ומה גם, and nevertheless, it's חילול השם. You're going against the Torah over here. That you have to answer. It's a halacha question. זו נשאלת במעמד הנשיאים וכל העדה. If it was in private, you can say, nobody saw, nobody heard. It was in front of the entire nation, of the entire congregation. ובפרט ששאלה זו היא בעניין הכי עיקרי אצל בני ישראל בכלל. And it's not just a question about something which is not important. It's about the most important question that there is, inheritance of the land of Israel. And specifically at that time, that was the question. Because now they're about to go into the land and inherit it. הדור שנכנסו לארץ. This is a generation that entered the land. נחלת הארץ. כמובן מדבריו של משה רבנו, just like it is, we see it from the words of משה רבנו, ברעש הכי גדול בנוגע לבני גד ובני ראובן, when the tribes of Gad and tribes of Reuven wanted to stay on the other side of the Jordan, Moshe is screaming at them, you're doing the same problem that the Meraglim did. You don't want to enter the land until they promised him that they are going to enter and they're going to conquer with everybody else. Yeah? You see how the importance of the inheritance of the land is. עד כמה בנוגע העניין לנחלה בארץ, how important it is the inheritance of the land. הרי על פי תורה, so according to the Torah, Torat Moshe, this is the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu is bringing down to every generation, מוטל עליו החיוב והזכות להשיב על השאלה. He has the obligation to answer the question. But on the other hand, he's got a problem. ולאידך גיסא, but on the other hand, we have over here a שוחד דברים, that they were kind of nice to him. Not exactly, but they שוחד דברים ששייך כאן. It says how? באמרם שלא היו אביהם מעדת שונאיו של משה, הוא אפסי. Because they didn't tell him, look, our fathers liked you. They didn't tell him, our father was your friend. All they told him, our father wasn't your enemy. That's all they told him. But it means nothing. What does it mean? It's nothing. It's nothing. Our father didn't hate you. That's what they're telling him. Big deal. But it's nothing. It's minuscule. It's not even anything. This is nothing. And especially, why is it nothing? Because Korach happened 38 years ago. מחלוקת קורח אירעה לפני 39 years ago, 39 years ago. אשר אפילו בשעת מעשה, and even if it would have happened a second later, you think Moshe would have minded? לא היה משה רבנו זקוק לקירוב הדעת של בשר ודם, שאינו מדעת שונאיו. You think Moshe would have minded who it was? It's a halachic question. Because of a halachic question and something had happened 39 years ago, even at the moment he would have told you what the halachic question is. It's got nothing to do with me. להוכחת צדקתו, שהרי שמח על הקדוש ברוך הוא באומרו, and Moshe wasn't worried about the nation, who's with him, who wasn't with him. It says, I don't know, guys, I don't need your father to be for my supporters or to be for my enemies. You know who I have? I have God. God takes care of it. And this is Moshe. How do we know this is Moshe? Because even then, by Korach, what did he say? Boker v'yeda Hashem. It says, I don't need your father, I don't need your grandfather, I don't need anybody to support me, not to support me. It doesn't matter. In the morning, God is going to announce to everybody what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing. Ve'im bria ivra, it says, and you're going to see that if it's going to be a strange occurrence, that the land is going to open up and swallow everybody, then you know I'm right. ואכן היה בפועל, and this is what happened. כך, שגם קורח ועדתו נוחלו בעליל בצדקתו של משה רבנו. So everybody knew that Moshe is right. So Moshe, you think I'm offended? He says, I wasn't even offended. ועל אחת כמה וכמה 39 שנה לאחרי כן, and this story is happening 39 years afterwards. שאין כל משמעות בשוחד דברים על צדקתו של משה. Nobody is going to suspect over here that Moshe, like Moshe is saying, oh, I have one more proof that people are not against me. Well, he doesn't care. It's 39 years later. Everybody knows Moshe is Moshe. Nobody has in his mind that Moshe is not Moshe by this time. He doesn't do anything to the case. ואף על פי כן, and nevertheless, the Torah comes and tells us over here an amazing point that we're going to discuss. מכיוון שהזכירו שלפני 39 שנה, just because of the fact that they mentioned that 39 years ago something happened, ברגע שלפני בריאה יברא השם, כאשר היה מקום לשתי דעות, there was a case that 39 years ago people could have not go on the side of Moshe. There was such a possibility 39 years ago. שהרי בניגוד למשה רבנו היה קורח ועדתו 250 ראשי סנהדרין כמובא פירוש רש"י, and it wasn't just babies who were fighting against Moshe. It was 250 leaders of the Jewish nation. They were the heads of the Sanhedrin. Imagine, everybody is against Moshe. The entire Sanhedrin is against Moshe. It wasn't babies who was going against Moshe. לא היה אביהם מעדת שונאיו של משה. And then it says, their father, they mentioned, wasn't from the supporters of this Sanhedrin. Shuv, but it doesn't matter, even though it was 39 years ago. And then there was doubt. Right now, Moshe knows, I know for sure there's no doubt right now. Everybody wants me as a leader. Nevertheless, לא רצה משה רבנו לדון דין זה. Since there was some kind, in potential, 39 years ago, a question about this, so he says, right now I'm going to take this quote. כדי שלא יהיה מקום לחשש ששוחד דברים. So that there's not going to be a doubt that I am tempted. שיכול להטות ולשנות את הפסק דין האמיתי, that I can change the real ruling. למרות היותו משה רבנו, even though this is משה רבנו, פוסק שאין להרר אחריו. It's somebody that nobody is out. Now, the whole story, the whole discussion that we did wouldn't have been discussed if they wouldn't have said those words, or even if those words, if these words wouldn't even, they could have even said it, but if Moshe wouldn't have recorded it, we wouldn't have known. All Moshe would have recorded, the daughter of Tzlofchad came, and the ruling is ta 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 ta. That's all we need to know. Why is all this story mentioned? Because Moshe wanted to give us a ruling. He's telling you. It says, look, even me, someone who's in the highest level that can possibly, couldn't care less, when it comes to ruling that I have a minuscule amount of bias, you cannot rule. He says, what did he want to teach? Let's see. וסיפור זה כותב משה רבנו בספר התורה, and this is why Moshe writes this story in the Sefer Torah and records it in such a manner. שתורה שבכתב מלשון הוראה. The word Torah means a lesson, הוראה. הוראה לכל אחד ואחד מישראל. This is a teaching to each and every one of us. עד כמה יש להיזהר מעניין של שוחד. How careful we have to be when it comes to bribery. כאמור, like we said, אפילו שוחד בעניין הכי קל, even such a שוחד, such a bribery that just in words, ולאידך, and who we talking about over here? לגדול שבגדולים, to the greatest of the greatest, שאין למעלה ממנו, that there's nothing, no one higher than him, משה רבנו. So what does come to us? ומזה מובן במכל שכן וקל וחומר. Here the Rebbe introduced something into the Jewish nation that many people, to the religious Jewish nation, that many people are not careful in until the Rebbe emphasized it. It was known, some people did it, but even the people who did it didn't emphasize it. The Rebbe over here in this talk is emphasizing this point. And he's talking, remember, he's talking to Hasidim, he's talking to religious people. What point is he emphasizing? כאשר מדובר אודות אנשים שלא בערך לגמרי ביחס לגדולתו של משה רבנו, he says, we're talking about people like us, the Rebbe said. People that are not on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, ולאידך, and furthermore, השוחד שעומד בפניהם, the bribery that we get is much higher bribery than Moshe got. In every case, הוא לא זיכרון מאורע שהתרחש לפני ל"ט שנה. For us, when we're dealing with our life, it's not something that happened 39 years ago, it's something that's happening right now. דבר שבנובע הנוגע ברגע זה ממש, הרי בוודאי ובוודאי שאינו יכול לסמוך על עצמו. It says, anything happens in life, it says, all of a sudden, everybody knows what to do. You have an argument with this guy, you know the answer. Everybody knows the answer. Everybody is an expert. Number one, you're not on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. And number two, if you're having an argument, you're biased. And how do I know you're biased? Because you're getting angry. You're getting angry because it means something. He's going to take my money. He's going to do this to me. You're biased. You're emotional. This is you. This is the proof that you're biased. And all of a sudden, you have an opinion. He says, what do you mean you have an opinion? How can you have an opinion? Anything that happens with anybody, you have an argument against anybody, and you're a little bit, your fuse goes a little bit high. Or even if it doesn't go a little bit high, you're still biased. You're not in the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, and you're involved in the matter. You're still biased. So what do you need to do? So the Rebbe says, don't make decision. Everybody makes decision all the time. I know. What do you mean you know? כי אם לברר ולשאול אצל גדול ממנו. It says one has to ask by someone who is greater than you. And by the way, when I'm going to say the words greater than you, we're going to explain what's greater than you means. It says in Pirkei Avot, עשה לך רב. It says, make for you a rav. And I want to explain this. It doesn't say מצא לך רב. Find to you a rav. It says aseh. Why does it say aseh? Because even if you think that you're the greatest and you know better than everybody else, you still have the obligation to what? To make for you a rav. Moshe Rabbeinu has to make himself a rav. He had to make himself a rav. For him it was Hashem. And if you're the greatest of the generation, doesn't matter. You make for yourself. Fine. You need a rav. Aseh lecha rav. You need a rav. If you're biased, it's a matter that has to do with you. That's it. You have to make a rav. עשה לך רב. הברירה היא בידו לבחור לעצמו איזה רב שרוצה. Now, first of all, you have a choice. You can choose. First of all, you can choose whichever Rav you want. And
Moshe could have chosen theoretically
the Sanhedrin.
Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron is not nogea badavar. Aaron died at the time, but but Elazar, he couldn't have done the Sanhedrin.
Joshua.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, he could have done.
It doesn't have to be greater in Torah. than you.
That's right.
You are the greatest.
There's a reason. Yeah,
Because none of us can choose Hashem.
Yeah.
It's very nice, but
Yeah.
it's not practical.
to get to your point, in our case, he couldn't have, because the people would not. If Moshe didn't know the answer, nobody else would have said anything. So he had to go to, it's a technicality. But it was a technicality. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a technicality. But Aselech Harav, so first of all, you have to find a mentor. Now, the mentor doesn't necessarily need to be smarter than you. He's not allowed to. I don't suggest you take somebody who's stupid. Obviously not. Yeah, but he needs to be unbiased. Somebody who's not biased. Asel lecharav, make for yourself a rabbi. אתה בעצמך, you can do it yourself, you can choose whichever rabbi you want. אבל צריך לבחור רב גדול ממנו. But it needs to be greater than you. What does it mean greater than you? Greater than you doesn't mean in knowledge in anything. That you accept his decision as greater than your decision. You're not going to say, I know better than him. That's what it means. You have to accept that his decision is greater than yours. Not to say, you know what, he doesn't know what he's talking about afterwards. What does it mean? שיקבל את דעתו. Nominate somebody. That whatever he tells you, agree or disagree, you're going to accept his decision. After that, you don't like his decision, for this case, choose another Rav. It's fine. But on this case, do what he says. For next case, you can go choose another Rav. That's fine also. You know? שיקבל את דעתו, before you know the case, not after you know the case, you have to choose the Rav. שיקבל את דעתו ויקיים את דבריו. You have to accept it to yourself to do whatever somebody above you. That's the idea. וכאמור, גם כאשר הדבר כרוך בקשיים. And it says, it looks like the many people came to the Rebbe, and it says, it's very difficult. People don't want the responsibility. I went to this guy says, I'm not going to do it for you. I went to that guy. So everybody has the excuse, came to the Rebbe. The Rebbe used to ask them in the beginning when this happened, did you make yourself a Rav? I told you, to make yourself, do you make yourself a Rav? And people say, it didn't work out. This says, no. There's no. So he says, even when it's difficulties, Sharei, and you can say mid melo. It says, who knows the case better? Who knows better than me? It says, I'm the smartest. I'm the genius. You know. כמודגש בדיוק הלשון עשה לך אחריו מלשון כפייה. It's a commandment. They didn't ask you. Find somebody that's smarter than you. You have to make one. If you don't have one, make one. Make one. ובוודאי שהדבר הוא בכוחו וביכולתו. It says, for sure it is within each and one's ability. שהרי איני מבקש אלא לפי כוחן. It says, because I only ask according to the powers. Now, this is one of the hardest things to do. And I'll tell you why it's one of the hardest things to do. There's many things in our life that if we're completely unbiased, we know that we're wrong. Let's give an example from life. Many times that you had an argument with your wife or an argument with your friend, you knew that you're wrong. Somewhere during the conversation, but you convinced yourself, you were fighting on your side and you're getting angry on purpose to make yourself right. You didn't give up on the fact. Once you started the fight, it's very hard for a person to go back because in the middle of the fight. It might be even after the fact, a week comes by, you went to your wife and said, you know what, you were right. You actually knew she was right in the middle of the fight. But in the middle of the fight, you don't have the power to say that. Yeah? This is what usually the problem, that we don't want to go to a Rav. People don't want to go to a Rav because they don't want to hear the answer. The reason why they don't go is not because they think they know different. They know what the answer is, and they know they're not going to like what this guy is going to say. This is why they don't go to Rav. Most people don't make for some rabbi. Why? Because they don't want to hear things that they don't want to hear. They want to do whatever they want to do. Says that's the main problem. But what's the solution for that? The solution for that is, and this is something which is hard, is to go to a Rav not for the big things. Don't keep it for the big things, for the small things, for the small arguments. Every time it goes like this forever. Either your business partner, your friend, or your wife, you notice that the fights are come. Usually there's fights, there's arguments about certain situations. Certain situations arise, and then you fight, right? So you don't have to wait for the big fights. Take the small ones into Zeu, take it to the Rabbi, and see what's his viewpoint on this. And you're not going to like what he says. Maybe you're not going to like what he says. But he says things which are unbiased. And even though you might be smarter than him, you can say, I know the situation better than him. He's not biased than you are. And Moshe, this is what the message that Moshe Rabbeinu wants to tell us. Don't ever trust yourself when you're in the situation. Always go to a mentor. Even in the tiniest little things, go to a mentor. Go to someone who's higher than you.